Welcome to the Lean Icon Technology webinar sessions. We are so glad to have you all join the webinar at this time of the day. And it's an exciting time to have two great speakers join us for this particular session. We've got Odile Monroe and we've got Joshua Armour. And we first want to say a big thank you to our awesome speakers for making up the time in their busy schedule to join us. I know Odile shared earlier with me, she was in India for 2 days and she made it back to Paris just to be with us, and we want to say thank you. And for Josh, thank you as well for creating time in your busy schedule to be with us. So let me do some housekeeping and then I'll introduce the speakers and then start talking with the speakers. It will be a conversation today, so I hope you would all find it interesting. First, the webinar will be recorded. Second, is being live streamed. And thirdly, all questions can be sent by the chat room. Fourth, we would like to thank Skilled Agile for making today possible, offering us offering us Odile, a keynote speaker, and then having Bev to also join us for today's session. We are most grateful to Skilled Agile Inc. for helping us organize the session and offering us the speakers. I'll talk about Odile. Odile is a safe strategic advisor and an SPCT for the Skilled Agile Inc. Her drive is helping organizations through adoptions of business agility. She's got 20 plus years of professional experience helping profit and non-profit organizations in the field of IT service management, business information and software engineering across the world. She has worked for many organizations and she keeps on supporting them on their journeys. In the last 10 years, her focus has been helping teams adopt the agile mindset and also making sure that the agile principles and practices at scale are continuously being improved, and she embeds those methods within the teams. I want to say thank you, Odile, for making up time to join us today.
You're very welcome, and thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. And our second speaker, Josh. Josh is a firm believer in continuous improvement and value-focused development and delivery. He has contributed in various roles in the creation of high-performing teams and is responsible for financial inclusion products across multiple markets in Africa and the UK. He possesses a unique management style that fosters psychological safety within teams, encouraging collaboration and a can-do attitude all around. An event Josh was involved in recently that really got me kicking and wanting to do some was Josh was involved in boxing, and I know if Josh should go far, Josh could go into professional boxing. But we want to say thank you, Josh, for taking the time to join us for today's session.
Thanks, William. It's always a pleasure to join you guys at LIT on your various events. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. What about myself? I'm William Kosina, your host. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm going to anchor today's session and make sure that our speakers feel comfortable and share their experiences, and also make sure that we have a wonderful session. If you've got any questions, please type them in the chat room. I'll be picking them and sharing it with speakers. We'll go straight into today's sessions. For everyone who's joined us, again, welcome to the session. Before I start engaging our speakers, I'll start with Odile. Odile, having had so much experience helping organizations from the leadership to the teams and driving business value, what are the drivers that lead organizations to adopt the lean portfolio management to help them deliver value?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think you mentioned it in your question. It's a business driver. Basically, what we want to be doing with companies is to have a portfolio that will allow them to reach out their objectives, their goals. And this is very important to see it as an enabler to be able to kickstart the right initiative. So for instance, if you want to conquer a new market, if you want to improve your time to delivery, if you want to be more innovative, this is going to be helping you basically to achieve those business goals. So this is going to be always business driven. What can we do to deliver the value? And obviously we will need to align the initiatives, those big projects around improving the solution or creating new solutions in the IT field to be able to do that. But I think it's very important that the companies see it as a big business endeavor first.
Thank you. Importantly, the business must see it as a big business endeavor so that they can get those value out of it. Joshua, on this journey as organizations adopt LPM, how do they involve the rest of the organization to get that buy-in? Because is one getting the leadership to get the buy-in, but how do they involve the rest of the organizations?
Yeah, so that's a tricky question, or a tricky situation most organizations find themselves in, because like we said, it's a journey that doesn't need to be done in isolation. Yes, senior leadership are key to driving your adoption of LPM, but then it will fall flat if the rest of the organization isn't involved. So I've in the past seen 3 ways to try and get people involved, the rest of the organization involved, and I call it the be aware, get involved, and support the evolution approach, right? So be aware of what's happening in the organization from a transformation, from a LPM perspective. And that's the responsibility both of management and at the bottom end as well. At the bottom end, you need to be curious to find out what are we doing as an organization when it comes to forming our work, from putting things through from concept to actual products in the hands of our customers or services that our customers use. You need to be aware, you need to be curious about it. And from a management perspective, you need to want to expose it to everybody. Get involved. And I'm sure we'll probably come to more about this when we go through LPM. You need to get involved at all levels. So LPM is not just for the leadership, but from a mid-management to even the developer who's writing the code. You have a role to play. So you need to want to get involved into it. When we're going through our budgeting, it's not just leadership that go into a small cocoon and get a budget and come back and tell you what's funded, but you need to get involved in that budgeting process, in understanding why things are prioritized ahead of other things. And then the last one is support the evolution, right? It changes with time. Your portfolio will evolve. Your lean portfolio will evolve with your organization as you develop. So you need to support the evolution. Don't create the situation where you are a stumbling block to that evolution progressing, but you're actually a catalyst to the evolution. And those are my 3 keys that I tend to advise whenever I'm mentoring anybody within an organization I find myself in, or even speaking to the mid-lead, the product managers, scrum masters, RTEs. I'm telling you, be aware, get involved, and support the evolution. Don't just leave it for the leadership to do.
Thank you so much, Josh. Supporting the evolution is very key, and I think it links to Odile's question, next question, on core pillars to start the portfolio, because the portfolio will be evolving. So organizations have to put in place a disciplined roadmap to implement the portfolio as the portfolio evolves. What are some of the core pillars required by organizations as they evolve to start that portfolio journey? Odile?
Yeah, so I would say it's all about the people, the structure, the artifacts, the rhythm that you're going to be doing. So, for instance, very important, the scope of your portfolio. The scope of your portfolio is going to be key. So having a clear understanding of your development value stream, the solutions that are being delivered by the portfolio, is going to be the first step that you're going to be making. How big is your portfolio? How influential is going to be your portfolio to get started? So that's one of the first steps that you need to get alignment on. And then when you've got that, you need to think about basic rules of engagement. So basically, you need to think about the guardrails that you're going to be introduced. So for instance, how do we deal with new initiatives, those epics that are coming in? Which are the ways to get new initiatives? So for instance, if an initiative takes maybe more than 3 PI, is going to have some impact on many different users, as a direct link with a strategic theme or an objective of the company, then should we get it in, or do we want to decentralize it more on the agile release trains? So all those guardrails we need to set in place. Also, how do we going to decentralize the decision making? Because as Josh mentioned, everybody is involved, and sometimes the people doing the work can take a decision and make a decision because they are better informed than, for instance, at the portfolio level. So I think that's very important. The second thing is, third thing is the rhythm and the cadence that you're going to be doing, because your organization is probably already having agile release trains on certain cadence, and if we bring all those trains in a portfolio, we need to align with the cadence. So having those big moments, the events where we're going to track down the performance of the portfolio on a regular basis. How often do we want to do it? Do we want to do it monthly? Do we want to do it every iteration? That's really important for the people to decide on. Also, what you want to be doing is, when you want to synchronize some of the events, when do you need to position it? So for instance, if you're going to re-review regularly the allocation of your budget, you need to do that in upfront, maybe a month or 6 weeks before the next PI planning, because all the different stations that you will have made in your budget will have an influence on, for instance, the features you're going to be doing at train level. So it's very important to be well aligned. Then also very important artifacts is the visualization, because without true visualization, we're not going to be able to have a conversation, a communication, and also decision making. So having a portfolio Kanban is also going to be very important, so that you know, for instance, where your initiatives, your epics are currently. Are they flowing through your Kanban, or do you have bottlenecks that you need to address also in those events? Also important metrics, because you want to be measuring. You want to be measuring the impact that you have on your decision making, and also the performance of the portfolio. Again, if you've got business drivers, you need to be able to make that up. And then the last but not least, but I think we're going to go a little bit deeper later on in our questions, the roles. Again, Josh, you made a perfect sense. You know, you've got people at different levels of the organization that will be contributing to ensuring that the portfolio is in place. All the events are running fine, the decisions are being made, and we are having some positive results. So it is a big endeavor. And having those elements well thought before, to align the people and to understand what the difference will be between now the current way of dealing with a project or program portfolio and moving towards a more lean and agile way of doing and measuring your portfolio is going to be essential as well.
Thank you, Odile. You've shared so much on front-end planning to enable us set up a portfolio. That means we need to work with the leadership team to ensure that there's so much front-end planning put in place to get the portfolio working as is expected. Josh, Odile has talked about the rhythm and the cadence, the reallocation of budgets, and the roles. From your experience, as Odile has shared some of these core pillars, how have you found this being applied in the transformations you've worked on?
Yeah, it touches on some really important points there. Odile has mentioned some really important things that it's difficult to pick just one and dive deep into that specific one. But let's take one of my favorites out of that, and I'll explain to you how I've seen that applied and how it works. When Odile mentioned cadence, and cadence is one of those things that I find very important in implementing lean portfolio, and then everything that trickles down beneath the lean portfolio. So you have a regular cadence for instance, your strategic business reviews or alignments on what the organization will be working on over the coming year or years. You have a cadence for when you have a portfolio review or portfolio sync, where you look at what's the status of things that we're executing today and what's the status of things that we want to execute in the future. You have a cadence for reviewing your risks that are being raised and bubbled up from all the teams into the portfolio. And then obviously she mentioned you have a cadence for your budgetary cycle. And one of the things I have seen from the field, and this might be the negative side of it, is organizations that fail to implement the cadence will fail in their lean portfolio journey because there's no discipline. The cadence brings discipline. And discipline will mean that you make sure that everything that you're progressing from left to right, forgive me for using that reference because it's the Kanban, I'm used to the Kanban being from left to right. So anything you're applying on your portfolio Kanban from left to right, you have an entry and exit criteria that you're looking for each stage. For instance, you need to make sure you have your business case, your lean business case outlined, your benefits hypothesis, you know what it is. You can't pick it from funnel and move it straight into implementation without having those things. And it's all got to do with the rhythm and the cadence and the practices that you apply. So I've seen it fail in some organizations where they don't have the cadence, and as such, they don't have the discipline. But I've seen it works really well in some organizations where they have the cadence. Even though they might not know what they want to work on, they still have the cadence where they come, meet together as a leadership team, discuss, we don't have anything ready for the next 3 months, but you guys, we need to seriously think about this. What are the things, what's happening in the market? Where do we need to adjust ourselves? So for me, that's the most important one I would pick on and say, this is something I've seen, and that helps you in the future when you're trying to evolve your LPM from infancy into maturity.
Joshua, you are reflecting on leadership to help us build this particular cadence. Am I right in?
Well, it's leadership, but I also feel that the middle management and below, we have a role to play in that cadence, in making sure the cadence works, because sometimes leaders get very, very busy with leadership things. Sometimes leaders get busy with leadership things, but keeping ourselves honest, as we say on the lean portfolio, anybody can come up with an idea that wants to be implemented within an organization. So yes, drop those ideas. Those ideas can come from the bottom up or from the top down. So if we continually drop things in and we continually respect the boundaries that we set, the guardrails Odile mentioned that we set, and the cadence associated with it, it evolves from the down to the top and from the top to the bottom as well. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh.